If I can't,
Nothing.
have a fight with my best friend, I don't know who I can have a fight with.
Is he your best friend?
After the Beatles broke up, John Lennon and Paul McCartney wrote many songs for each other, and music seemed to be the way they communicated best. Paul admitted on Howard Stern that when the Beatles split, Paul and John were writing songs at each other like weaponizing music. The business was so bitter after the breakup, and there were disputes about solo music between Paul and John. This list has all of the songs in the timeline John Lennon and Paul McCartney made, influenced by their song partner in very diverse ways. Their songs of argument, apology, and love. Number 1, I Found Out. The lyrics are some of Lennon's most vitriolic, taking shots at religion, his parents, drugs, and even his former songwriting partner. I've seen religion from Jesus to Paul. It presents a clear perspective on the past, a theme he would revisit on the Imagine album's Oh My Love the following year. Number 2, Too Many People. There were all the bits at the beginning of Ram, like too many people going underground. Well, that was us, Yoko and me, said John Lennon. For many years, McCartney refused to admit the extent of the Lennon goading contained within Ram. He'd been doing a lot of preaching, and it got up my nose a little bit. In one song I wrote, "Too many people preaching practices," I think is the line. I mean, that was a little dig at John and Yoko, Paul said for Playboy interview in 1984. Too Many People opens with the words "piss off," which McCartney eventually admitted was aimed at Lennon. Number 3, Three Legs. Studio engineer Eric Wangberg said the song was inspired by a picture drawn by the young Heather McCartney. Her father originally titled the song "A Dog Is Here," according to his handwritten lyric sheet. Regardless of his intentions, McCartney would have known that lines such as "When I thought you was my friend, but you let me down, put my heart around the bend," and "My dog, he got 3 legs, but he can't run," would be analyzed by legions of Beatles watchers the world over. And he cannot have failed to recognize that the lines would be interpreted as a commentary on his former band. Perhaps ironically, Lennon professed a liking for the song, listing it as one of the better recordings on Ram. Number 4, Dear Boy. Paul wrote it about Joseph Melvin C. Jr., Linda's ex-husband. Despite this, John Lennon thought the song, like others on Ram, was written with him in mind, an interpretation McCartney later refuted. Dear Boy wasn't getting at John. Dear Boy was actually a song to Linda's ex-husband. I guess you never knew what you had missed. I never told him that, which was lucky because he's since committed suicide. And it was a comment about him, cause I did think, gosh, she's so amazing, I suppose you didn't get it. Number 5, How Do You Sleep? I heard Paul's messages in Ram. Yes, there are, dear reader. Too many people going where? Mr. Lucky what? What was our first mistake? Can be wrong? Huh. I mean, Yoko, me, and other friends can't all be hearing things. So, to have some fun, I must thank Alan Klein publicly for the line "Just Another Day." A real poet. Some people don't see the funny side of it. Too bad. What am I supposed to do? Make you laugh? It's what you might call an angry letter song, get it? Lennon told Crawdaddy. Lennon believed there was several coded messages in the lyrics of the Ram. Later John said that, in fact, the music was about him. It's not about Paul, it's about me. I'm really attacking myself, but I regret the association. Well, what's to regret? He lived through it. The only thing that matters is how he and I feel about these things, and not what the writer or commentator thinks about it. Him and me are okay, John said. However, the song is with no doubt for Paul. Number 6, Dear Friend. This song was written as a response to the musical and personal battle between McCartney and John Lennon after the Beatles breakup. The music lyrics are really trying to show how Paul felt about all discussions going on between him and John. Speaking in a 2018 Q&A about wildlife on paulmccartney.com, Paul admitted he struggles to listen to Dear Friend when it gets played now. I have to sort of choke it back, he said. McCartney added that he's telling Lennon it's time to make amends after all the disputes they had about the Beatles breakup. Dear friend, throw the wine, I'm in love with a friend of mine. Really truly, young and newlywed. Are you a fool or is it true? That lyric, really truly young and newlywed, listening to that was like, oh my god, it's true, he said. I'm trying to say to John, look, it's all cool, have a glass of wine, let's be cool. Number 7, Jelaous Guy. When Lennon began work on Imagine, he cast aside the 1968 lyric and rewrote them about Yoko Ono. However, in an interview published in the February 1985 edition of Playgirl magazine, Paul McCartney revealed that Lennon wrote it with him in mind. Paul said, he used to say, everyone is on the McCartney bandwagon. He wrote, I'm just a jealous guy, and he said that the song was about me, so I think it was just some kind of jealousy. Number 8, I Know. The curious repetition of the title in parentheses could have been simply one of Lennon's whims, but is it possible that he was presenting a coded message, not for the first time, to his former bandmate Paul McCartney? Wings' 1971 album Wildlife had featured the song Some People Never Know, in which McCartney lamented that some people fail to understand what it means to love. In this light, Lennon's response saw the pair in agreement, in a marked contrast to their earlier song-based conflicts. Number 9, Silly Love Songs. Paul wrote this in response to a post-Beatles breakup comment by John Lennon, in which Lennon claimed that the only songs that Paul wrote for the Beatles were silly love songs. Number 10, My Old Friend. In 1981, Paul and wife Linda invited Carl Perkins to stay with them in Montserrat. Paul wanted Carl's help recording a song called Get It for his new album Tug of War. Carl spent 8 days with them, and the remaining ex-Beatles George Harrison and Ringo Starr had been there to help out as well. It was a great time between old friends who had shared such a legendary musical past. The night before he left, a song came to Carl that summed up his warm feelings about the visit, and he couldn't get it out of his mind. It was so strong that Carl didn't even write it down, which he said was strange for him. He usually always wrote his songs down immediately. In the morning, Carl Perkins sang the song, which he named My Old Friend, for Linda and Paul, saying it was his gift for having him as a guest. Halfway through the song, after singing If We Never Meet Again This Side of Life, in a little while over yonder, where there's peace and quiet, my old friend, won't you think about me every now and then? Tears streamed down Paul's face and he stood up and stepped outside. Not knowing what the matter was, Carl stopped, a bit shaken. Didn't Paul like the song? Linda warmly put her arms around Carl and thanked him. She said the song was getting Paul to finally connect with his grief over John Lennon's death. Linda explained that the last time Paul talked to John, he said the same line to Paul. Think about me every now and then, my old friend. Carl and Linda were now convinced that the song had been channeled from John Lennon's spirit as a gift to Paul. Number 11, Here Today. Lennon had died less than a year before the song's composition. It took the form of an imaginary conversation between the two former Beatles and contained some of the McCartney's most heartfelt and honest lyrics. I was kind of crying when I wrote it. It's like a dialogue with John. One of my feelings, even when he used to lay into me, was that he really didn't mean it. I could always see why he was doing it. There was this spectrum of me, which I understand because he had to clear the decks just like I did. In the song, John would hear me saying that and say, "Oh, piss off, you don't know me at all. We're worlds apart. You used to know me, but I've changed." But I feel that I still knew him. The song is me trying to talk back to him, but realizing the futility of it because he's no longer here, even though that's a fact I can't quite believe even to this day. The "I love you" part was hard to say. A part of me said, hold on, wait a minute. Are you really going to do that? I finally said, yeah, I've got to. It's true. Paul McCartney's Tug of War is believed to be as well about John, inspired by a comment of George Martin, who said that Paul and John's relationship was like tug of war. Number 12, Now and Then. In January 1994, Yoko Ono gave Paul McCartney 2 cassettes of John Lennon's home recordings, which included a number of incomplete and previously unreleased songs. They included Free as a Bird, Real Love, Grow Old With Me, and Now and Then. It is said that in those tapes it was written for Paul, so it's believed that this song is as well about Paul. Number 13, Free as a Bird. Just like Now and Then, Free as a Bird is a home recording of John that Paul took with Yoko to work on for the Anthology project. This song was entirely made by John. When the producers Paul, George, and Ringo worked on it, Paul wrote the lines, "Whatever happened to the life that we once knew? Can we really live without each other?" Consider being another lyric by Paul directly made to John.
Hello.
That was Ringo, folks.
Well, what can I say?
And goodbye from all of us.
Well, this is Ringo. Everyone seems to have said everything here, so I'll just sign off by saying cheerio and best of luck from the Beatles.